Stop asking the question, what's our AI go-to-market strategy? It's not the right question. The goal are the outcomes, not the activities. Outbound never ends. You cannot take a project-based mindset to outbound. Find your one bottleneck, deploy Gen AI there. Simplify, simplify, simplify. Sales leaders, executives, listen to me. You have to learn this yourself. You cannot outsource this to RevOps. This is a foundational shift in how we solve problems as human beings. You gotta have fun, man. Sales is fun.
Jake, how you been, buddy?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. Just like, you ready for this? Both my cars got stolen out of my driveway a week ago. Why? It's crazy.
Can we get a gone in 60 seconds graphic for this?
They found one.
Unbelievable.
They found one. I have to go get it.
Was it a port of Long Beach?
No.
God, I cannot. I just keep thinking of the other guys. If you guys know the scene, where his car gets stolen.
Yeah. Actually,
we found your Prius.
Turned it into a suit.
Here's a note from Dirty Mike and the boys.
Someone was trying to talk to me about it because I was saying, in California, it's a 73% recovery rate on stolen cars, right? And he's like, I don't know. I remember a buddy was talking about how the bums were having sex in the car, and I'm just like, bro. Dude, that's a movie. Like, I know you're old, but like you have conflated a story you actually heard with the other guys, right? Like, I'm just going to lay that out there for you. But truthfully, like that is what they look for now is like my buddy's car got jacked and then they found it with a gun in the glove compartment. And then they got to total it, so we'll see. I don't know what it's going to look like. I'm praying the baseball stuff's in there. Everyone's like, it's gone. Whatever. But it's the biggest thing is the paperwork. And then the biggest thing is I run my cars into the ground. I drove a frickin' Toyota Camry 2005 until that thing, I got rid of it only because my kids who at the time were like 8 were asking me to drop them off 2 blocks away from school because they didn't want to be seen with it. So anyway.
From ABM to PLG, from Medic to MedPick. The world of business is constantly evolving. We'll cover the who, what, where, when, why, and most importantly, how you get the transaction. I'm Matt Amundson, and he's Craig Rosenberg. Let's get started.
All right, so this is going to be fun because here's the thing on Jake, Matt.
Oh, I know Jake.
No, I know, but this is why I think he's an interesting guest is because, so Jake, I'm going to give you a little context, then I'm going to tell you why you're on the show and use that as my intro. Is we started the show because Matt and I were working, he was at Scale. He was my first DIR, I think. 1 or 2, him and Sydney.
I think Sydney.
Sloan. Oh, she beat you? Yeah, maybe by a couple of weeks. So, and we were sitting there talking to folks and like, we just looked at each other. We're like, holy shit, like the past playbook is dead. Like it's gone and we got to figure this thing out. So we started the show so we can go interview people. I think over the last 6 months, it's like it is true change or die situation. And so like, it's been interesting for us as we've sort of, we look for guests and want to have conversations with folks. Like you are an interesting one because you've been through all the wars and now are like one step ahead on AI and like doing things that are amazing. He did a event for us, Sam, which like was clear that like he's more than one step ahead. And so like, but for everyone here, like Jake has been around for a long time doing all these iterations of consulting that the market needed. And now we're in this new space over the last 6 months and going forward where that has fully changed. And so for the OGs like Jake, if they don't evolve, they're going to go by the wayside.
100%.
And now Jake is 2 steps ahead. And he also is a sharer, which I've always appreciated about him. He's always willing to talk about, well, frankly, anything. And so like you were a target after you and I did this like panel or something. And I was like, I just remember, I was like, holy shit, Jake's on point. I was worried about you. I got on, I'm like, dude, like I'm the old man. If Jake comes in just like us and we're talking about sales and marketing alignment, we're screwed. And, I was like, oh no, Jake's on the AI thing faster than, I think at the time you were ahead of everyone, and now it's like it's on. And so that's why we couldn't wait to talk to you, man. We want to learn from you. So audience, this is our guy, Jake Dunlap. He is like he's famous for all his years, but he will be uber famous now because he is like, as I said, way ahead of the game. So Jake, thanks for coming on the show, bro.
Hey, I appreciate that, man. We'll wait and see. I mean, hopefully everything pans out. But I'm excited for the conversation, and yeah, it's been a minute. It's good to see Matt, too.
Oh, dude.
Hey,
I've seen you in a minute, dude. I probably haven't talked to
Matt
you in like
it's been a while.
Yeah, it's like years, man.
Well, Matt was fully on the circuit, right? He's like a pre-COVID circuit man, like a lot of us. You know, it's been weird sort of coming back from that. You get that a lot, you know.
Yeah.
No, I'm not just Matt, but me. It's like there was like before COVID, everyone in the game saw each other every month, basically, right? With events or webinars or whatever. And that just kind of slowed down. So, I'm glad you guys are reconnected. So here's how we do the show. So we got 2 sections. So section 1 is a Matt Amundson innovation. We just ask you for any fun, heartwarming, exciting go-to-market stories that you want to tell us. Just, we like to get the stories out up front. And then the second part, we kind of mod it a little bit, which is like, we just like to hear from you like 1 to 3 things in go-to-market that work today in today's market. And that's it. I mean, we ask questions as you talk, but otherwise that's the guiding force of the show. So let's start with the stories. Cool. And now I told a story about my cars getting jacked, but so you'll have to try to, that's a baseline for you, buddy.
You need one of those LifeLock things. Remember LifeLock back in the day? It was like this crowbar thing you put in your steering wheel. Do they still make LifeLock?
Are you sure they're called LifeLocks?
No, LifeLock is like
no, it's probably not LifeLock.
Protects your social security.
Yeah, that's your identity.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm talking about.
Do.
What was that called? There was like a thing. It had a key and the club. Yes, the club.
Yeah, those were the days because now everyone has a nice car. But back then, I remember we would all you would walk. I lived on Oak and Masonic. You would walk down the street. Everyone had to park on the street, and it was like Toyotas, whatever, parked on the street. Everyone had a club.
Yeah, on the Tercel.
And
the club.
And every other car had a broken window because everyone makes a big deal. But even back then, your car was getting robbed every 3 weeks, and they're on the panhandle. So anyway, all right, Jake. So let's start with we love to hear go-to-market stories, and we take them in any flavor. But obviously, we hope the moral of the story is something we can learn from.
For those of you I don't know, I run a revenue performance consulting company, have been doing it for 12 plus years. And so I get a chance to work with hundreds of companies every year and CEOs, CROs, everything in between. And, I think for me, I feel like the last 6 months has really been around Jake, we know we need to get on board with generative AI, and there's so much noise in the market, and what is actually going to move the needle. And I think it's really easy for people to get overwhelmed. And so one that kind of comes top of mind, a client we worked with, private equity company, that company actually ended up exiting about 3 weeks ago. Long story short, field-led org, kind of old school and, technology adoption, et cetera. And, but came with like an open mind of, look, here's what our teams are doing. Like, what can we do to fix the bottlenecks? And this client, what we did is they sold multiple SKUs, right? So they had, a customer's working on this thing. What are the 2 or 3 other things that they're working on? And the reps would have to kind of consistently go and find and search through this details, what's this SKU versus that one. And what we were able to do is partner with them and build a assistant for the field team. And again, especially field reps, not known for high technology adoption. And we basically, loaded it up with the SKUs, put in place our custom instructions. And now, the team literally says, hey, this is what they're doing. What are the top 3 things I should be talking to them about? And it's saving them 3 to 4 hours a week per rep. And so those are the things that get me excited right now is just we've got another client we just implemented assistant for around prep and research. And, it's the old way is I go to Google, I go to LinkedIn, I do this. And the feedback is Jake, literally we're saving 20 to 30% of all the time we did research, et cetera. So a lot of the use cases I've been really excited about have been around AI. And then the other one is Outbound, which might be a little bit of a wild card, right? I think everyone is like, oh my God, Outbound's dead or whatever you say. But it's really not. I actually feel like for our clients, like the bar is super low because everyone is just trying to automate everything. And so it's like, hey, if instead we automate the prep and research, we do some of that, but then the reps actually know how to do the customizations that are relevant to like, I always talk about, it's not the industry, it's a sub-industry. So if you can put together snippets that say, I know what a VP of operations, not in manufacturing, not in industrial manufacturing, but heavy equipment manufacturing, and I can talk to them about trends and pressures, competitive pressures they're probably feeling as well. It's working. Like people still take meetings if you can be relevant. We had a client, kid you not, we started with them in January, between Q4 and Q1, I think maybe 20 SDRs, 100 new meetings above Q4. And so I feel like Outbound, like the bar is so stupid low that if you just go back to being relevant and allowing your teams to turn their brain on. And we had another success story at the end of last year. It's like AE-based team, 60 AEs, nobody wanted to prospect. We put in place a plan, did 44% better, best month of the year, 44% better than their average. And I think a lot of that is just getting back to what's working and also just setting clear expectations. I think a lot of companies we come into do more stuff. It's like, no, like you got to have like realistic targets and things people can achieve and then set them up for success. But I think those are a couple, man. And I know it's like a long-winded double answer, but I think those are kind of the use cases that are popping out for me right now.
All right. Well, let's start there then. So one is, it seems like, and Matt actually has done a ton setting this up too, one of the best use cases that everyone can do right now, but I know there's work to be done, is account contact research. Is that a true statement, or true or false?
The basic research is not defensible, right? Like anybody can do basic research. I think what we are seeing provide real value is, and again, like this is where a lot of these technologies just don't have the context, right? Like they're like, here's account research. It's like, well, if you've been a sales leader, like, this is what actually matters. And so I would say it's understanding the right type of research that you can automate and get in front of them, or at least set up a custom GPT where they can query it and just say, hey, give me a link, and it does it, which is like a good kind of V1 for a lot of people. So yes, the 100%, the very first thing that you should look to for generative AI, where are the little tasks my people are doing prep and research, and how can I get them that information, not only faster, but with 3, 4, 5x quality?
Yeah, I was going to say it's better too.
Oh God, so much better.
Go ahead, Matt.
The thing that I often hear though from reps who are sort of, well, I'm going to experiment with Anthropic or I'm going to experiment with OpenAI, is they often don't understand the right prompt to use. And so they get hung up in like, yeah, I get a little bit of research, but this isn't really what I'm looking for. And I think if like you want to make that a part of your actual process, then as an organization, you got to think a little bit more deeply about it, which is to say, like, you got to train the AI a little bit. They have to understand like what your company's value prop is, why a company would want to adopt a technology like yours. Otherwise, you get these really bland, generic answers that like you might as well just come up with on your own. So one of the things, like we had Matt Hines on the show a couple of weeks ago. I think his episode went up. Yeah, Sam? His episode just went
today.
Up. Yeah. And one of the things he was saying was, hey, like, why wouldn't someone just go out and create like AI agents of their buying committee so that they can, sort of flash, new marketing materials, new sales decks, new website in front of it. And I was like, challenge accepted. So I went out and did it myself, just in my spare time. And what I realized was like, if I just ran that stuff through like a blank LLM or GPT or whatever, like it would give me just, oh, this website looks good. It clearly explains your value prop. But if I ran it through these 4, kind of buying committee AI agents that I created, it would say, this is what I like. This is what doesn't make sense to me. And this is what you're missing. And it was so much more valuable because I fed it, here's what my company does. I fed it all the persona research that we had done and documented so that it knew who the buyers were. It knew what we did. It knew what our primary value props were and what we were trying to sell. I think if you just kind of approach a blank GPT, you're going to get back, in a lot of cases, especially with OpenAI, you get back positive feedback. Oh, your website's good. It's well designed. It articulates your value props well. But if it thinks about it through the lens of your buyer, and if you train it to think about it through the lens of your buyer, it actually gives you really good feedback. Now, I tend to not pay attention to what it likes. I tend to pay attention to what it says is missing. And there's good information that you get from that. Like, hey, this could really use social proof. This could really use some quantifiable metrics behind what you're saying. This sounds like marketing hyperbole and isn't really saying much. And that's so valuable to me because, the alternative to that is, can I get 10 or 20 of my customers in a room and show them and then collect their feedback? And are they willing to be real with me? Are they just trying to get off the phone? How engaged are they? That stuff is super powerful. And I think that applies to that same level of sales research, which is if it knows what your target buyer wants, if it knows what it is that you sell, if it's seen successful outcomes in the past and you fed it that either through transcripts of phone calls or whatever, then it can start to actually give you real answers based upon your business as opposed to just generic answers based on any business.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, that's why, look, we've created I think we're up to 15 custom GPTs, right? When the custom GPTs are basically, we use the custom instructions and knowledge documents on the back end to say, this is what somebody who's analyzing an annual report is going to want to know. Here's our persona. This is what we do. And now, the annual report summarizer one we built is insane. It literally says, give me the link or give me the PDF, done. And it literally, this is work that if you're in enterprise sales, you can feel this pain. It would take you 3 or 4 hours to do it right and be like, okay, is this relevant? And it can triangulate. And so, we've got discovery call prep, discovery call trainer, help me book a meeting with and the future is, look, you're candidly today, just to call this out, prompting is not what any rep should be doing now, because I can build agents. Now I'll give you the exception. I can build agents for almost every primary, competitive deal winner now has gotten insane. Battle cards are dead. I can now build a custom battle card for every single selling scenario based on trends for the prospect you're going against, you're trying to reach, hey, where should you concede? It'll tell you look, dude, don't try to say you're better at this. They have 10 years of this on you. And so the agents, that's kind of this next iteration. Prompting is V1. Most of you are too young to remember. We used to have to prompt software. You used to put in this thing called a floppy disk, or you'd had MS-DOS and it said, and it was this blinking thing with a forward slash. You used to have to prompt computers to run things. And that's kind of where most people are still. But the reality is custom GPTs are the first set set of software, and then we can we'll get into automations and what's possible for certain GPTs that you can you can just run it in the background. We built a chat GPT Salesforce, the first kind of native integration where you add a contact, it says run, and we run 4 of our agents behind the scenes and just populates the record. Then you don't even need to think about prompting as a part of this. So there's just a lot of evolution for a lot of people listening. I don't want you to your head to start to spin. Craig, you hit on the head. Look for the research-based activities and prep. Those are the ones that you can build agents around the fastest. And I promise you, within a week, your team is going to say, oh yeah, you know what I want to do is go back to Googling and searching LinkedIn profiles. And maybe I had 10 minutes to look at things and my prep sucks, to being oh my God, it said, give me a link. It gave me a link. And this is the best prep I've ever seen.
Yeah. There's a second part to it. One is, I think it's interesting that you guys basically are doing similar uses. Matt's doing it from the marketing side, right? And I know, Jake, you help with the marketing side too. And then, in the sales side. So that's the breadth is really interesting. But here's the other thing. I think we should talk about the business reason. And I think it's a lead into what you just said for the second story, Jake, is you have to do research now. Because remember, one of the things was you could do research. It was bad, but you could. And you were likely better if you were trying to get into 5 accounts, you just had to do it. But if you were, someone who had 100 accounts in territory, many of them just did a cursory glance because you could. There's been a moment in time here where you didn't have to do as much research, right? So we have this combination of things, which is actually it's better and faster than ever before. But if you don't, you're not likely to be relevant enough to get in the door and to be able to sell some shit. those both things go together at the same time.
They always have, though, right? Like that's all. It's like it's kind of always. You're right. It was a little easier, but look, what is the point of sales? Is if the point of sales was just information giving, guess what? You wouldn't make commission, right? The point of sales has always been, hey, I care about this industry that I serve. I want to help these people make a great decision, and I happen to think that we've got a pretty good product that can help a lot of people, right? But I feel like it's like we need to go back to like 2014, pre-sales engagement platforms, right? And say, guys, the sales engagement platforms were never meant to hit send all, ever. Literally, some of them didn't used to have that feature. I think it was SalesLoft. SalesLoft used to literally not allow you to hit send all. And then it was like, okay, maybe a little send all. And then it was like, oh crap, what do we do? Right? So
full go.
You're hitting it on the head, Craig.
Yeah. And then if you just take like Matt, on his, I think it's a breakthrough for, you're talking specifically about web pages or any kind of content, Matt? Is that kind of the idea?
Any content. So basically what I threw down to the marketing team is you're not allowed to use AI to create your content anymore because you can smell that stuff coming from a mile away. But, all right, unless you're a customer of Jake's. But what you should do is you should use AI to be critical of the work that you create because it's a really, really good editor. Craig, you're gone.
No, I'm here. Sorry. I had something I was looking for in my pockets and I knew it would be distracting. Okay. Hi, I'm back.
Yeah. It was the key for his club.
Okay. So actually, I remember this shit because Jake, when we were on that panel, he was like, you were actually sarcastic. This was, by the way, this is a compliment. So do not take this the wrong way.
No,
you were sarcastic. And he was banging his fist on the table. He was like, actually, none of this is different. This is what you were supposed to do in the first place, right? So I'm summarizing you, Jake. But I love because I do feel like marketing on the website or in the content, there's use case marketing that's happened in the past, but generally speaking, we haven't been able to try to capture the buying committee in a credible way. I mean, even if you did focus groups or whatever, you still ended up with something pretty broad and probably not relevant or interesting. So I think that's better, and it's how you should do it. Right?
Yeah.
So both things coming together. But Jake, my point is, yes, it's always been better. And I totally agree. Except right now things are crazy competitive. And if you're generic, you're fucked. But right? Is that true?
I don't disagree, man.
All right,
I don't disagree at all. But I think it's like here's what I see. I feel like honestly, we're in like a bizarro world. Like we are in this bizarro world where leaders cannot unanchor from activities.
Yeah.
It absolutely is insane. And by the way, I'm not saying that certain funds or other people don't put this pressure to say, well, guys, this was the recipe Aaron Ross taught us. It's this. And what I want to call out though is like, just so any of you who are managing your teams by volume, like I'm just going to make a very simple analogy. You can take it or leave it. When predictable revenue was written, okay, keep in mind, based on data from over 20 years ago, every activity, okay, was a high quality activity. Back then, we really only had the phone and a little bit of email, and every single touch point was what? Customized. There was no this. So therefore, when you have a homogeneous data set where everything is the same custom, you can start to make some leading indicators that this activity equals a meeting. Fast forward to today. You're asking a rep to connect on LinkedIn, send all on this, write a message on LinkedIn, do this thing. Not all activities are the same. So therefore, your activity data is dirty and therefore is not a leading predictor of meetings because it's not a homogeneous data set. It is all over, and some of these things are nurturing and other things. So again, like a lot of this is like you have to start to realize, and the bizarro part to me is, guys, the goal are the outcomes. Not the activities. It's like, we use this concept called meaningful conversations, which is, I'm fine if you don't want to measure like purely just meetings book, but it's like, did you connect and one person responded with, let me get you to Craig, he's the right person, or yeah, this is interesting, let's catch up. Like, leading indicators of outcomes, I think is where the future is not activity-based tracking. But I do feel like, look, you know what tracking activities is?
Yeah, it's easy.
It's real easy. And that's why we're not unanchoring from it, even though the results are like, down the tube.
Matt, you were agreeing?
I did agree with Jake there. Yeah, it is easy.
No, not on that part. When he first
it's
started,
a lot more fun if like there's a good conversation. You know what I mean? Like if everyone's like, "Oh, I agree." Like, hey, I like.
Well, no, but I was bringing Matt back because when you first started talking, Matt was agreeing initially with. Do you guys track activities?
We do too much, right? Like, and this is one of the things that I'm trying to break our BDR team out of. Like, I don't give a shit that you made 500 phone calls this week. In fact, like, I think that sucks. I don't want your job to suck. One of the, when I rewind the clock all the way back to when I started in tech and was a BDR, I loved the challenge of like putting it all together and making it work and being thoughtful around like, what are the parts of the Marketo platform that people would actually want to buy and cause them to become a customer? There was so much to it, right? Like, could I lean into something that was meaningful for them? And like, could I show them something that was going to get them interested enough to want to talk to a salesperson? Now it's just kind of like, let me just send this to as many people as possible. Whether it's they're using a sales engagement platform, a power dialer, automated in-mails products. It's just volume. And then tracking BDR volumes on a dashboard somewhere to say, we made, 1,500 fewer phone calls last week. And you're just like, guys, this is not getting us anywhere. We should be thoughtful about our approach. I don't know. Like I'm in a zone where I'm kind of like, should we just get rid of outreach? Like, should we pare back on all these things that do automation? Should we get rid of a power dialer? Yes, our activity metrics will suffer. Our activity metrics will look shitty. But like, do we get more meetings as a result? Like, are we better off not putting a list into a machine that's going to automate our calling or automate our emails and just say, hey, you got 20 accounts this week. Turn it into, 5 meetings. It's better off. You're better doing that than saying, hey, make, 3,000 activities and turn it into 2 meetings.
Well, we also, it doesn't allow people to play to their strengths. Look, if Susan can go send 20 customized videos a day and crush it, then amazing. And if Rick is really good, and again, here's what I'd say. There's a time and a place for activities, right? Early in your career, so it's not like 0 or 100, but I'm saying if you can manage to outcomes. But here's what I would say is like, these tools were meant to help. And I think if we can get back to that concept of like, maybe step one is just turn off the send all function on outreach, right? Turn it off, just turn it off. And instead, again, but what the issue I see though is we're just not training the SDRs or BDRs or even AEs on what are the trends in the industry. Like I think back in the day, like 2006, I started at a company and I got a binder, I swear to you, it was like this thick of like industry trends around talent acquisition. And like we had to learn it. And like, hey, if you're meeting with a manufacturing company, you better read what these trends are, right? And so I do feel like part of this is on the companies that we have to just realize you have to still keep investing in people and let the people, to your point, Matt, like let them think like, hey, these templates we know work. So Jake, you work your magic in here. And if you break it, amazing. Let's take that data and let's spread the love. So it's this kind of combination of tracking, but not trying to templatize, and I think part of this is this kind of this COVID generate. Like I feel very unfortunate for anybody who joined sales in 2019. They have not had the ability to learn from peers really, really quickly. They're disconnected. They're not learning as fast. Like for all of us, we were on the floor. Like you hear, oh man, I'm going to take that. Oh, that's good. Now let me do that. And so we've got a whole generation of sellers right now with 5-6 years of experience that have been taught to just execute templates. And then we wonder why they're not, we didn't really teach them much. We're like, just do MedPick. Just do MedPick and just send this email. Yeah. And that will solve everything. It's crazy, man. MedPick has been taking over. And I'm like, guys, Medic was invented in 1996. The internet wasn't even a thing. There was one decision. That's a whole other debate we can get into. But these are the conversations that we're having around how to modernize your GTM process.
Yeah, I love it. All right, so help me on this is So those were some pretty successful outbound stories, and most of the stories we hear are not. I know that's why you brought it up, right? Like it, and so if you were building an outbound team today, you don't have to get, I know you have some proprietary things, but like generally, like what would you go do? What, like, give me the steps. Like how do you build it to be successful today?
I think there's a few core elements that I think will be absolutely critical. And I'm gonna kind of work it backward. The first is mindset.
I like that.
Outbound is the same as your Google AdWords or any of the things that you're doing. It never ends. So you cannot take a project-based mindset to outbound, which is what probably 90% of companies do. They say, we're going to redo our cadences,
right,
and we're going to write 20. And I'm like, 20? How do you know it's not 200? How do you know it's not 6? So step one is, and I talk about this in my book, it's the 4C, which is continual optimization. And so you have to have the mindset that I'm going to need somebody at my firm, assuming that we're going to be scaling to like a decent amount of, amount of accounts we're working, where this isn't a part-time job of an SDR manager and a RevOps leader and we're basing all of our cadences on opinions. Like, nope. The same way that your marketing team that's spending $200,000 a month on Google, you're spending $200,000 a month on SDRs. The goal is the same, generate meetings. Guess what marketing does? They hire someone who tweaks the dials 24/7, who doesn't think about opinions. You need that person for your outbound. Number one, you cannot be, buyer behavior is evolving. What messaging works, you need to optimize that faster. We had a client when we plugged in our kind of performance pulse tool, they had a sequence that had 3 emails, 63,000 sends, 39 replies. And when everybody laughs, and then we plug it into their instance, and they're like, wait, that one was 20,000 with 4 replies. And you're like, yeah, you can't do that anymore. So you got to be smart early and build this mindset of like, we are never done. We are always going to be optimizing outbound performance and what works. So I think like mindset is first. Okay. And then 2 is, again, we have to invest in teaching the people who are the actual buyers. And I know that sounds cliche, but like, look, I'll give you an example. When I ran a sales team, this is years ago, we sold into operations. I happened to have a buddy who was a VP at McKesson. I took my team to his production facility. This is what a VP of operations does. This is what they do. And I feel like if sellers, and this is for all of you out there, sellers, over the next 3 or 4 years, it's going to get hard. And the reason it's going to get harder, buyers are not going to want to talk to anybody who can't add incremental value, not a little more value, incremental value, because everything else I can get from AI and from groups that I'm a part of. And so sellers, we have to train them on what do these people do? What actually are their issues? And then train salespeople in the mindset of your job is to help these people with the 3 or 4 problems that we solve for. And then that way, when I'm training them to do outbound, they can say, oh, okay, this person, they do this. So let me try this little customization and like what we do. So I think it really, like, if you do those 2 things, and I think you can use an outreach or a sales loft or a gong or whatever, but I think if you do those things, you're going to be successful, because I really feel like the bar is so low right now. And there's all kinds of crazy plays we can get into around, customized podcasts and things like that. But those are the foundations, is training the team what the persona actually does and the trends that person, what are the pressures that person faces and how we solve those pressures. And man, if you invest there, you're training people how to think. And I feel like we for a long time have been saying, just follow a template. So if you train them how to think so they can connect, and you have an idea of like, we're going to continuously learn and optimize, I think that you're going to be, you should be successful. Obviously there's the messaging and how tight is your ICP and all that stuff. But, I think those 2 are ones that I'd hone in on.
Did you say customized podcast?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, damn it. I was holding back, Sam. You got to... All right. Yeah, I was like, do I do that? Because is that like shiny object following?
It's very meta.
Dude. Sorry,
meta.
You can't bring that stuff up. I mean, what the fuck?
No, dude. Let me tell you the play. Literally, we're like, this is alpha play, right? Again, I go back to like pattern disrupts the other thing. So if you guys haven't messed with Notebook LM yet, go check it out. It's a Google product. It's called Notebook LM. Just how it sounds. With Notebook LM, we did this for... we're basically running prospecting plays with it. So imagine what I can do is, I can upload your LinkedIn profile, links about your company, links of like industry trends, a link to my website, and I can say, I want you to create a podcast that for this person, it's about Craig. And Craig, I'll do Craig and Matt, I'll make personalized podcasts for you. It takes like 10 or 15 minutes. And it says, look, I want you to talk about the pressures that this person in this type of role is facing. Talk a little bit about his background and why he's uniquely positioned to take advantage of this. And then toward the end of the podcast, I want you to start to talk about why we are the logical solution for someone like Matt to help him to solve the industry pressure challenges. And then Notebook LM, in the matter of like 45 seconds, creates this very, very realistic podcast that's anywhere from like 7 to 12 minutes long.
What?
And now imagine if your BDR team just sent out 25 of those a day versus email, call, email, LinkedIn, etc. So that's what we're testing. And then we'll talk about like customized white papers too. So with the ChatGPT o3 model with deep research, I can write an 8-page white paper with 25-sided sources that are about trends in Matt's world over the next 3 to 4 years based on his industry and things that he needs to know as a VP, C-level, and then triangulate that, with how we solve. And so if I send you, a customized white paper that's about your business and shows that I understand it, and then I send you a customized podcast that also does that, you're taking the meeting. Like you're taking the meeting. Like so that would be the third thing maybe I didn't ask to Outbound. It's like, guys, be clever.
Yeah, have some fun.
Be interesting.
Yeah, have some fun. Be different.
Yeah, it is fun. It's a lot more fun. Notebook LM, go check it out if you aren't already. You're gonna get the AI is getting so good.
Yeah,
so good.
Okay, dude, why didn't you lead with that story? That was insane.
Because most people can't handle it, man. Most people are not. They're like, Jake, it's not a volume activity. I do not know how to forecast
See,
this.
I told you. He gets all sarcastic.
My board will yell at me if volume activity drops, so I got to keep volume up.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
That's why.
It's true.
When you're ready, you're ready.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Let me get your opinion, Jake, just because I think
Steele. Yes.
Like Anthropic is headed they sort of made an announcement, I think it was like late last week, and they're headed in a interesting direction. And actually was chatting with a friend of mine who was like, oh yeah, I'm working with this company. They love Anthropic. They love it because, it's different and they're taking things in different directions than say OpenAI is. And they made the announcement that they were going to start integrating with business tools. And I think a lot of them for the most part right now are sort of like back office, although I think they might have a HubSpot integration. How are you feeling about like the encroachment of GPTs into your actual business tools? And do you think that there is like a future there where we could be using OpenAI or we could be using Claude to start asking questions and make connections between all of our different business tools that, that might help us, in various ways, whether we've had previous conversations or whether it's like, hey, it looked like the last 5 customers that we just closed for these reasons, et cetera.
I know for a fact OpenAI is in beta with direct Salesforce integration as well too. So like this is a when, not if scenario. Again, I think that here's this interesting world that we're living in. These are all great insights, right? I'm talking about being able to give someone the best prep or best insights, et cetera. The reps that are going to make it and a lot won't, candidly, are the reps that actually understand what the heck this thing's putting out, man. And so it doesn't absolve you from learning. They're parroting back AI could maybe get you that meeting, but then you have to get on the call. And so I'm all for, these automations. Again, we've built some, et cetera. But it does not take away the fact that you have to then, what does that mean? So this company says that they would make money doing ABC. Hey, John, what does that actually mean? Can you teach that to me? Can you tell me about it? A really fun thing to do is after you do kind of the discovery call prep GPT, you say, hey, create a 15-question trivia game in real time to teach me this company's industry. And it's like, that's how you learn it. And so I'm all for this, but we have to remember we are dealing with humans. We are not Neo from the Matrix where you plug it in and I know Kung Fu. And I think that is what we're actually expecting from people is that if we spoon feed them the play, we still have to train people. And so that is critical. And if you're a seller, you cannot afford to just be rep number, whatever. Like you have to invest, Like you have to invest in actually learning this stuff too.
Yeah.
I want to ask a question real quick. I know that no, go ahead, Craig. You go.
Well, before you ask the question, I just want to point out that Jake has brought this up twice. And it's because, Matt, you're not picking it up. I'm just kidding. No, that was a joke. I just saw you looking at me. I was like, I just tried to break it up. No, that's not why. But it's really important. And actually that hasn't changed. Because when we had Topo, I remember we'd go in and they'd say, well, these guys need to do research. And it was one sales leader who was running the SDRs. He's like, well, I'm training them how to look at a S1 or not S, the investor
10K.
information. 10K. Sorry, I lost my mind.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but bro, if they don't know, right? If they don't have the baseline, that's actually a waste of time and going to continue to be bad content, right? So I really think it's important. I think it's always been important. If they don't understand, as you said, that one of the reasons for me, there was a bunch of reasons why I was attracted to account-based. It wasn't because of the applications or shiny objects. It was because if you focus on a certain type of company and a certain type of people in the company, then everyone has a better baseline of what to talk about and could read something from the chat GPT or whatever and actually do something with it and actually be creative, because you can't unless you learn it. And so anyway, I just thought that was a good point. And I actually just reiterated what Jake said. So I'm sorry, Matt.
No, you're okay.
Am I? Oh, thanks.
It was an important point.
As you were.
Point. Yeah, it was an important
point. I wanted to make a point.
Home.
I felt like, I could contribute there. Matt, what was your question? What was your question?
Well, I wanted to use the sort of like classic transaction question here, which is like,
oh, there he is.
What are you're working with lots of companies, and my guess is many of them have tried. They've tried to implement somewhat of an AI strategy. What is it that they're getting wrong and that's leading them to come to you? And I'm guessing you're probably hearing the similar stories over and over again.
Wait, this is a transaction classic.
Yeah, it is.
You went with.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I love it. Jake, that's an honor. Well, no, we tried to move away from it. He keeps bringing us back in. This is that was the perfect time for the question.
Oh, I think it's a really good point.
Yeah,
I think it's a great point because, a lot of people will listen and say, oh, yeah, that sounds like me. Okay, I'll start a little higher level, then I'll try to get pretty tactical. I think there's a couple of issues. One, IT teams do not know what the hell is possible. And because they don't know what's possible, IT teams cannot keep up. They are not up to speed. I cannot tell you how many companies, it's like, well, IT, we're banning ChatGPT. That's my absolute favorite one. Right. And it's because in April of 2023, let me just give you guys a history line around how dumb this is. In April of 2023, ChatGPT could not access the internet without a plugin. You couldn't do PDFs. It's like a little baby. It's like 5 months old. Somebody uploaded Samsung's board minutes and, it says do not do this at the time. And somebody was able to reverse engineer and find like a couple of lines from it. And now because of that, the IT world says, oh my God, ChatGPT isn't safe. My friends, guess what? They fixed that. It very clearly calls out when you're using the Teams edition or other editions, like no information is shared back with the model. No conversations are shared back with the model. And so I think part of this is executives are not staying up to pace the way that they need to, and they are trusting an IT team that is not capable of comprehending what generative AI is possible. And I'm not saying every IT team. I've seen some teams that are way out there and doing really cool stuff, but I do feel like IT teams are also struggling. It's like, imagine your IT team before the internet and how capable were they of understanding how each individual role at your company should deploy the internet if they had never seen it before? Probably not very capable, right? In 96, I looked this up. They did create roles called Chief Internet Officer. And what are companies doing? I'm okay on the product side to have an AI officer, but people are creating a Chief AI Officer. It's like, guys, AI is a role by role, use case by use case deployment. So that is that kind of combination of issues is really where I think most companies are getting paralyzed. Even if IT is telling them, ABC, stop asking the question, what's our AI go-to-market strategy? It's not the right question. AI is like the internet. It says, hey, for our content marketing team, what are the 3 ways they should be using it? For our BDRs, what are the top 2 ways that that we're going to deploy a chat, either assistant or an advanced model? And so simplify. We already talked about this. The first use case, my friends, you don't ignore all the other cool stuff. Ignore all that. Prep and research. All of you should be using generative AI to pull in interesting insights, whether in an agent form or automatically, to help your team do basic things. And it doesn't abdicate them from learning those things. But that to me is why companies aren't doing it. One, a lot, I'd say at least probably 70%, Matt, of the conversations I have, then IT gets involved. I'm like, this is just wrong. Like you do not obviously comprehend what is possible. And 2, for the rest of the people that are like, we want to do something, is they're not trying to solve a bottleneck. They're looking at they're trying to instead, like, what's the bottleneck in your rev org? Boom. That's where we're going to deploy Gen AI a little bit for this role and this role. Great. Now, where's the bottleneck? Great book called The Goal. Shout out to The Goal. If you have not read it, it's about the theory of constraints. Find your one bottleneck, deploy Gen AI there. So simplify, simplify, simplify. Don't worry about all the other cool use cases. Write them down on a piece of paper. Go through your own existential crisis about what does this mean for you in your life later. But find your bottleneck and just start there. And Matt, those are the companies that we're seeing are making choices like that case study I kind of gave up front. It was like, okay, forget all the other AI stuff. Our reps are spending too much time trying to identify the next up SKU. Amazing. Let's just fix that. So those are the things that I think the other kind of cautionary tale is sales leaders, executives, listen to me. You have to learn this yourself. You cannot outsource this through RevOps. This is a foundational shift in how we solve problems as human beings. This is not another tech. We've actually abridged it. We don't say people process technology anymore. We say people process AI and technology. AI is not a technology. It's like saying Google's a technology. It is a shift in going and solving problems in a completely different way than we are used to. So if you can get over those 2 humps, you can realize that your IT team may be operating from a knowledge deficit, and it's your responsibility as an executive to learn this stuff. You can't outsource it. And 2, you pick the bottleneck, you will be successful, whether you do it on your own or whatnot. But that's the winning combination.
That's great. That was a great answer. Yeah, you son of a bitch. God damn it. That was good. Yeah. That's definitely that's going to be a social shared piece, man. That was passionate as well. Yeah. I love it. And I think that's right. I actually think that makes a ton of sense. I have watched, like Matt, Matt's the perfect example. He's still in the seat, and he was telling you that it's the same thing. Like, he did it. He's doing it. He's actually doing it on the side. When we just did our summit, it was like we had sales leaders and marketing leaders, right? And all of them were the leaders. They were doing it because they were, as you said, AI is a way you work now, not necessarily a technology. And I think that's a great point. I think it's a masterful point. How's that? Oh. What do you think? Yeah, I figured, I don't know. I like that. Trying to use a different word every week, Matt.
Look at you, masterful. That's great.
Well, you should have told us in the beginning. We could have all worked.
That's true.
Yeah. 3 syllables
at some point. That's what we used to do on the sales floor. Did you guys ever do that? Where, like, if you're like, again, this is about having fun with it. I remember being on the floor and we'd be like, all right, man, bet I'm about to work Abraham Lincoln and John Wilkes Booth. And I'd get on the phone and I'd be like, you know how it is, John. It's like, like Abraham Lincoln and the conflict with John Wilkes Booth. And so, all right, anyway.
Oh, man.
We want to avoid that.
We would give each other words to.
I love that.
To try to work out. You got to have fun, man. Sales is fun. Like, never forget that. Like, that's why a lot of this stuff, like, to me, why it's so exciting is like, man, I would love to have had half of this stuff. And then I could have just like been smarter, faster, but you still have to have fun with it. There's a lot of rejection and things too, but yeah, that just reminded me of like those.
Okay,
those
I love that, and that was great. And let me throw this to you guys. So for my next events coming up, here's what I'm going to tell the presenters. So Jake, you've done one, Matt's done one for me. I'm going to give you how many words do you think is the max to have to squeeze in? 3? Or 5? Can I do 5?
Oh, this is like a name that tune. 5. I think 5 could get 5.
Yeah, I'll give it to you on paper.
That's like I could do.
But
6.
if you present at any of my things, even if you're doing 15 minutes or an hour, you're going to do this presentation and you have to find a way to get these 5 words in. Wouldn't that be fun?
I kind of prefer that, honestly. Yeah, like I would actually prefer that. I think. Just to spice it up a little bit. Like this is like little Easter eggs.
There are people that will throw them off considerably, and that is actually also enjoyable.
Yeah,
so,
I agree.
Yeah. But do you tell the audience before or
after?
No, you you definitely don't. You're like, why did that dude say Abraham Lincoln so many times? Like, why was it like all his references to like Civil War period history?
This guy's
right.
This guy's talking about deal desks, and he mentions the word inoculation. How do we make that happen?
He used the word Fortnite. Yes. Like it was a Gettysburg Address.
I didn't realize beluga whales were related to that. Huh?
Yeah, there you go.
See,
we're already having fun.
I have a practical idea, and
see, you're having fun, you're laughing. That's what sales is about. Like, and all this stuff is just. If we can remember that, have fun, it's about connecting with buyers, that's how you're going to future-proof your job. All this stuff just makes us better at those things at the end of the day. And, the sellers that figure that out will be the ones that continue to win.
Boom. Let's do it. That was great.
That was a mic drop moment.
Yeah. I mean, dude, that was a really good show. We didn't even do the formal structure we normally do. So thanks for doing this, man. That was the transaction personified. Thank you.
Good, man. I'm glad there was
back-to-back bangers
out of it as well too. And
masterful. It was masterful. Abraham Lincoln could not have even remotely come close to that, even if he played Fortnite.
Forget the Gettysburg Address. Yes.
All right, guys. Well, thanks.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of The Transaction. Craig and I really appreciate the fact that you've listened all the way to the end. What are you actually doing here? For show notes and other episodes, please visit us at thetransactionpod.com. Like and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other place you get your podcast from. Either you have walked away from your podcast device, or this is playing somewhere in the background. Someone in your house would really like for you to shut this off now.